Okay, here I'm going to go in and talk about the timer. This has a lot of the mechanical switches in here. It's just really looks like a big relay. Um, and it has an actuator inside there that kind of, or I guess a whole rotary switch that goes in and hits different devices. And if you look at the wiring diagram here, you can see C, H, B, A, and that correlates to these A, B, C, and H. And then as well, if you come in here and you see T, F, and X, and that correlates to these guys here. See F there, X, and T. And so what you do, kind of the way I went in and I found out what was the matter, I look at the front of my dryer right here when this is in here, and when you have it set to one of these settings, you can see timed low heat, timed dry heat, high heat right here, auto sense. And if you come in here, it has a truth table, and it shows you if it should be open or closed whenever it's in that setting. And then from there, I came in and I found out that whenever I was in auto, or any of them really, and I should have, well, I guess in all the cases where it's on, where C goes to B, you should have C going to A as well. And you should have this. There are some instances where A opens up, but for the most part, in most of these drying settings, you should have continuity from C to B to A, and A comes in and it powers, in this case, a thermal cutoff, these two thermostats, and then from there it goes to my heating element. And then from here, the heating element, you can see, goes down to one of the legs. So when I was troubleshooting this guy, I noticed I didn't have continuity here, and I was wondering, this is before I knew anything about the timer, I was wondering if it had anything kind of, it would only do this on power, and you can see you have line here, it comes down, and it goes through this device, it goes through this the entire way, then it goes to line on the negative. So what I did is I applied power, and then I turned it on, and then I noticed that my heater wasn't turning on. I checked power here, I checked power here, I checked power here, and I checked power here, and I had voltage in all those instances. But when I looked at my voltage, I put the multimeter probe from A to B, I had 200 and something volts. And I didn't understand why until I looked at this and I noticed that this goes to the other line. It doesn't go to neutral, it goes to the other line. So that's where you get your full 220 across the device. And it shows that this is working, which I guess is inside the motor, and that I was getting voltage coming in here all the way over to this side, but I wasn't having this relay actually, or this switch, make contact. So that's when I opened it up, and of course I used this truth table to kind of tell me when it should be engaged and when it shouldn't be. And I went in and I checked this out also. This is internal, as I showed, and you'll see what it is here in a second. You can see there's the timer motor. This is the timer motor, this big guy, 2 screws, one there, you take it off. I've already done this. I've already applied the fix, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you how I did it. Okay, so now take this guy, there's the part number. Take this guy, turn it over, and pop off this. It's only held on by those 2 screws. Make sure you turn it this way because you have these little, I guess, dogs, I don't know what you call them in here. These little actuators. And you can see what happens is there's a little arrow, and on different ridges, depending on the position of this rotary switch, I guess you call it, it pushes these contacts into one another. And the one that we really have interest in is all the way up in here. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to go ahead and take off this guy and show you a little bit of how it works. I'll just put this back on. You know, it might be in the way. I don't know. Let's see here. Yeah, it's a little in the way, but let's see here. So how it works, you can see it push into, you see that little point there on the actuator, I'll call it, and it rides on these ridges, and when the ridges pushes it in, it pushes these two contacts into one another. The far right in this case is A, second one is B, third one is C. So it's pushing C into B and A. So that's why I was saying here, C gets pushed into B and then A. And in my case, I wasn't having continuity from B to A. And what I found out was that in this instance right here, let's see if I can get something to point. This might be better. In this instance right here, I held up between these two electrodes, between this one and this one. So the first thing I did was I came in here and I put sandpaper between these two. I just took, 500 grit sandpaper between these two and I cleaned it up a little bit. But then I had it outside and I noticed I could see the reflection between there. You could actually fit a piece of paper in between there. So that means that this B wasn't being pushed far enough into A. And I had seen something online, and again, this just plops out. It's pretty easy. You kind of turn it into a position. You can mess with it and get it a lot better of a point. I just kind of, there we go. And you can see in all these cases, right, you can see these little guys, how they ride and how they push into everything. This is TNF, and this one just moves the middle one from contacting one side to the other one. And in this case, I already applied the fix, but you see that it comes in here and just pushes those into one another. So it wasn't being pushed into it. So what I figured out, and I had seen a website that kind of goes in and talks about this a little bit. Let's see if it focuses. So right there you can see it. You see that little ridge. Now what happens is it's worn into it, and at that point it no longer pushes it as far. So it doesn't push it as far into the other piece. So what I did is I came in and I took this 1/16 drill bit and I drilled it in here. I drilled it in here. And I took a small wire, I think it might be 24 gauge, I don't know, and I wrapped it around and I kind of made an X so they'd be pulled towards the middle where it contacts these it contacts this electrode, this reed. And then I just put some non-conductive kind of stuff over the top of it, just to, I don't know, I was kind of worried about a sharp edge in here, but you don't need to do that. I think that's overkill. I kind of wasted my time doing that. But anyway, since I did that, it now works. And you can see